In the last video, we laid down a base color on the page edges. And I'm taking it one step further today and attempting speckled edges for the first time ever. Now this process will involve splattering paint, so make sure you're in an area that you don't mind making a mess and that you mask anything you don't want to get paint on. As you can see, I've already laid down a trash bag on my tabletop. You'll also probably want masking tape, but in addition to that, you will need a book press, which I've already masked the top of, your desired paint colors. One thing to note here is you want to use normal acrylic paint. You probably don't want anything metallic. I'm using Sunbeam and Black. These are colors that were suggested by Ex Fide Bibles, so that's what I'm using. Water to dilute the paint. Something to mix the paint in or on. I have a paper plate. A long, thin paintbrush, kind of like this one. From the video I watched, that tends to give the best results in terms of splatter pattern. Something to use for flicking the paintbrush. I'll be using this awl. It just needs to be kind of thin. A pencil would work just fine here. And again, plenty of paper towels. Now, as I mentioned, this will be a very messy process, so please, please, please prepare accordingly. I already mentioned that I'll be using a trash bag under everything and that I have already masked off this book press. Once you have everything masked off, you're going to want to put the book in the book press. To reduce the risk of paint getting on the front or the back of the text block, I'd recommend putting the book as flush as possible with the press. The way I've seen to do this is to just lay everything down and then tighten up the press. So the base color here is red geranium, and I will be splattering Sunbeam first and then black over it. But for this to work, we need to thin out the paint. From what I've heard, you want about a 1-to-1 ratio of paint to water. Now we need to do this one color at a time. That way the colors will not mix and we can fan the pages at the right time so they do not stick together. So we'll do one color, fan the pages, let it dry completely, and then do the other color. But again, this is my first time splattering paint of any kind, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But now I need to mix this all together. I definitely used way too much paint here, but that's okay. I'll know for next time to use much less. So now that we have the overall plan, let's talk a little bit about the technique. Now we want to get a very, very small amount of paint on our paintbrush. And if I understand this correctly, the less paint on your brush, the finer the splatter will be, and vice versa. So take that into consideration on what your preferences would be. And be patient. I know myself, and I will kind of get in the mood to rush things, but if you do that, you may add too much paint to the brush and then get big globs of paint that may be a little bit too big. Then we'll take the awl in this case, or pencil or whatever you plan to use, hold it steady about 4 inches above the text block. You'll bend the bristles of the brush, but hold this steady. So all of the work is going to be in the hand that's holding the brush. You're going to bend the bristles and then flick down like that. Before we get started, I'm going to practice this on a paper towel, just so I can get a little bit of practice in and hopefully get the desired pattern. My goal here is to try and get this to be dots instead of lines, I guess. I think that is a lot better where I started. And now I can bring in the actual book and try it on that. Wish me luck. Now, as I mentioned already, we'll do this one side at a time. And then we'll let it dry for a minute or two, and then take it out of the book press and carefully fan the pages from the top and the bottom. We don't want to get paint on our fingers while we're holding the book. I'll do that and then see how it turns out. do it for this first side. I'm going to let it dry for a minute or two. One thing I did notice is that it's really hard for me, since I haven't had any practice, to get the splatter where I want it to be. I had issues particularly getting it right there. That's just part of the learning experience. I also tried really hard to get a little bit on the corners so that they're not just plain. But for now, I'm going to check my fingers, make sure I don't have paint everywhere, which I do. So I'm going to go try and rinse that off, and then I'll come back and get this text block out of the book press. All right, so with my hands washed, I can undo this and try to pull this out. And again, we're going to try our very best not to touch the top where we were just doing everything. And now we will fan the pages out. I think I waited a little bit too long to do this. I should have done this a little bit earlier. I let it dry for about a minute. Yeah, that's the finished result, and I'm fairly happy with it. It could be more even for sure, but you know, for a first attempt, I'm not gonna complain too much about it. We do need to make sure we do this on both sides, and then we can go ahead and do one of the ends. Now, I'm going to wait actually a couple extra minutes to allow this side to dry fully. That way, whenever we need to fan out the ends, we can safely thumb across this way on the pages that we've already done. I'll get that set up and then let it dry. All right, so now we'll do the same thing on the top and the bottom. Again, one at a time, fanning between each. And we'll make sure that the speckling is dry before thumbing it to fan the pages. One thing on this side is I made sure to get this corner really well. You don't want that to be completely plain or else it'll look a little bit off. So let's take this out and fan out the edges. Yeah, you see how it's sticking together a lot more on this side? Exactly what we don't want to happen. So I waited a little bit too long to fan these pages out, but thankfully it seems like for the most part, just twisting it, fanning out the pages like this seems to have done the trick for most of it. Just to test. Yeah, that seems pretty dry, so I should be okay. Make sure that any paint that is down here will also break up. One more side to go. All right, so now that we're done with one color, I'm going to wipe off my paintbrush as much as possible and then throw it in some water, let that get all the paint off, let the book dry a little bit, and I'm going to go get a new paper plate for the other color. Now, because this is black and is a dark color, I think it's going to show up a lot better than the yellow did. So I'm just going to be extra careful, make sure to use a small amount, and we'll see how it goes. right, so as I fan out this last side here, let's talk a little bit about the results. Overall, I'm fairly happy with how this side turned out, and even this side. However, I'm not happy with what happened on this side. See how this side is a little bit more streaky than the others? I would have preferred to have avoided that. And I think that mostly comes down to my own impatience. You know, I've been doing this for about an hour and a half at this point, and I was just ready to be done. So, you know how I said at the beginning of the video to be patient? I lost patience, and that's the result. Sprinkling the black paint felt like it went a whole lot faster than the yellow paint, and I think it's just because that black is such a darker color. I have heard some people say that you want to use dark colors first and then go with light colors, and I think that's so that you can tell when the light colors go on a little bit easier. But overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Sure, it could have gone a little bit better and I could have gotten better results, but for a first attempt, I'm happy with it. Well, that was the last step that includes dye and paint, so we can move on to the next step in the next video. That will be reinforcing the text block, adding ribbons, headbands, and an Oxford Hollow. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.